What up to all the Patreon members, all the subscribers, all the new viewers? Thank you guys for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you guys could do me a favor, please hit the link in the description box below for the Patreon page. I would appreciate it. Got a lot of content on there. So let's get into it. We're on the series. This is part 7, attending university in Thailand. So we're going through things step by step. I guess maybe marriage should have been later on, one of the last steps, but whatever. The last live stream, the information was there, and it is vital information. So you're in Thailand, and you notice, okay, I'm here on a tourist visa. I'm going in and out, right? I'm flying out. I'm getting an extension. I'm flying out. They give me another tourist visa. I'm extending that one. I'm flying out, right? Now it comes to a point where they're giving you an ultimatum. You don't want to leave, and you're really liking Thailand. You want to stay, but you got some money in the bank. An elite visa, you might not have enough for an elite visa. You may or may not have enough for an elite visa, but you're thinking about changing over your visa to a student visa. Or you could be in your home country and you're saying, hey, I want to attend university in Thailand, spend 4 years there while going to school, getting a university degree, and then I'll decide whether I want to stay or if I want to leave. Okay. Whatever your options are, you're already there in the country or you're in your home country thinking about relocating to Thailand to become a student. I'm going to break this down because I was a student. I went to a university in Thailand. Okay. The way they're dressed on screen in this picture, I used to be dressed just like that on certain days. All right. Now, I'm not going to tell you which university that I went to. This photo right here is an AI. So I did type in a name of a university that I know. I've actually been to their campus. This is not their campus. This is all AI. Nothing in this photo is real, even though it looks very, very real. AI has came a long way, right? I had to blur out the university name because I don't want it up there. I don't want to say anything that might that they might take offense to. Okay. But here's the thing. If you're in your home country, you're in America, you're in Canada, you're somewhere in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, right? First of all, you got to contact the school and see when does the semester start. Okay, they have a winter semester, summer semester, and spring, winter, summer. There's 3 different semesters in the school year. Okay. Some people they take off for the summer. I didn't take off for the summer. I was going to school all year round. I got my degree within 3 years. All right. But what you need to do is you need to contact the office in advance. There's always a liaison for registration. It's best to call them. If you can't call them, email them or fill out a form on their website. And somebody will get in touch with you. But what you should do is you should download Line Messenger first. There's an app called Line Messenger. The icon is green. You want to download that before you contact the school, because if you don't want to go back and forth through email, you can actually call them. All right. So while you're emailing the person who helps foreigners register, because they have a team that helps Thais register for school, and they have at least 1 or 2 people that'll help foreigners register for school. Okay. Once you find out who that person is, email them and say, hey, I have Line Messenger. This is my ID. What is your ID? Just in case if I need to call you or send you a private message. So they should put their line messenger in the email, because that's what the guy who I was speaking to, that's what he did for me. Or, at the time before, because they got rid of Skype. I think Skype went out of business, right? So at the time, I had Skype, and I would just call him through Skype, and we would talk back and forth. All right. What they're gonna do is you need to pick a program. There's certain international universities that some have better programs for foreigners than others. I would say the top number one university most people would think is Bangkok University. It's actually Chulalongkorn University. Chulalongkorn University. It's like CHULA and then whatever the rest of the letters are, but it starts with a CH. Chulalongkorn University. They have some pretty good degree programs for foreigners at that university. All right. Normally, what they're going to do, they're going to ask you to pay the first semester first, right? It's like, hey, before you come over here, you need to pay for the whole entire semester. Okay. So, what program are you going to choose? Find out what programs they have, choose a program, and see what classes are available. See, set up your schedule first. Then the what are they called? The administrator, or the counselor, they're gonna say, okay, with this program, this is what you need to take in your first semester, right? Actually, this is what you need to take in your first semester. This is what you need to take in your first year, but you can't take these classes until your second semester. But this is what you have to take in your first semester. With this program on this schedule, full time, you're going to be going to school this day, that day, this day, and your times are going to be at this time, this time, this time, right? And the cost for the first semester is going to be this much. And it's like, okay, cool. Pay the first semester. It's probably not going to be that much money, right? It'll probably be $1,100 or $1,200. Or Chulalongkorn might be a little bit more, but I don't see you having to pay more than $2,000 for the first semester, because that needs to tie into your student visa when they have to apply for the application, the program, and everything. Okay, so you send the money, you have to wire the money, then they're going to send you some paperwork. Then you're going to take that paperwork to Thailand. You're going to take it to, you're going to have to take it to the immigration office. They don't process everything at the airport. From what I remember, you show up on a tourist visa. All right, they're going to walk you down everything. They're going to send you paperwork that's going to be in English and in Thai. Okay, so the person, once you go through customs at the airport, they're going to read your paperwork and they're going to be like, oh, okay, right? And they're going to let you in. But they're not going to give you a student visa once you at the airport. They don't do that. I think you have to go to you got to go to Cheng Watana immigration office, the big building. Once you're there, you get a tourist visa. Then you got to pull up to the campus. They might need some things. And actually, you do need things. You have all your paperwork and everything fine, but then you're going to have to get a uniform. All right. Because if you show up to the immigration office with regular clothes, like regular street clothes, they're going to turn you away. They're like, nah, we're not going to process this. Look how you dress. Right. They're like that at the immigration office. Like, hey, man, if you show up here at the immigration office, you're going to have to show up dressed like you got some sense. You got to show respect to the kingdom. So it's like, okay, this uniform that you see on screen, you're going to have to be dressed like that. Okay, so they have a student store on campus, and you can get shirts at a very low price. This uniform, you can get it at on campus store at a very cheap, low price. You want to wear the tie of your school colors. So my school colors, right, the tie was purple. I had to have a purple tie when I would go to the immigration office. I had to be dressed like this, but not in a blue tie, but in a purple tie. Okay. I think the whole entire uniform outfit was probably like 400 baht. I think the pants was like 200. The shirt was like 100 baht or 200 baht, something like that. You're not spending more than like $15, $16 on this whole get up right here. The belt, that's minus the belt. Okay. I forgot how much the belt was, but you can get pretty cheap shirts, but the shirts, they don't last that long. Okay. You get what you pay for. The quality of the shirts, like it's just, it doesn't like that last that long. It's very hot in Thailand and you're going to sweat and all that's going to get on your collar. So you're going to have to constantly buy new shirts, change out your shirts, right? Or use a lot of bleach for your shirts. Okay. Once you get on campus, you might need to check in, buy your uniform. Then they're going to tell you to go to the immigration office, handle your paperwork. Remember, I told you, show up. What time does, hold on, let me double check. So, Chiang Mai Tana Immigration Office. It opens up at 8:30. So for the office where you need to go in, remember when you go into certain offices, the big office, don't get discouraged because there's going to be a lot of people in line that are there for different things. So it's not one single file line to see an officer about your student visa. Okay. But you need to get there early. The earlier the better to get in line. So if I were you, I would show up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and wait. All right. Then by the time the doors open at 8:30, the student visa process, it takes a little bit longer. It's a lot of paperwork because they give you a number, you got to wait for your number to be called. You're gonna go see one officer. They're gonna have you sign different documents and they're gonna double check different documents. They're gonna take those documents over to another officer to double check. And it's like, okay, you're gonna go over here, right? Then you're gonna go over here. Then okay, sit back down. And then they're gonna say, hey, pay this. Then they're gonna say, sit back down. Then while you're waiting, maybe 30 minutes to an hour later, they're gonna call and say your last name, and then you can get your passport and then you can go. Like, hey, am I good? They're gonna say, yeah. Okay. That stamp that you get, the stamp that you get for your student visa, it lasts for 6 months. If you're from, basically a developed nation, right? A first world nation, America, Canada, UK, maybe Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, countries like those, right? Your first year, you're gonna have to check in twice, right? Because at the 6 month mark, they're gonna double check your grades. Like, hey, give us after 6 months, they want to see what your grades were like for the first semester. And it's like, okay, AB student, okay, cool. Bam, they'll stamp you for another 6 months. All right. They stamp you for another 6 months. And then at the end of those 6 months, now it's been a year. Okay. So 1 year, at the end of that year, you go back to the immigration office and they're going to check your grades again for the second semester or the third semester if you took summer courses. They're going to check your grades. And if they see, okay, the entire year he's been an AB student, then that's when they're going to stamp you for your second year. They're going to stamp you a 1 year visa. and you still have to do a 90-day report. Okay. I remember after my 6 months, they after my 6 months, they saw my grades and it was like, okay, he has good grades. I'll give him a 1-year visa. But when it got into the hands of another immigration office, because it goes through several different offices before they give you the final stamp. It your paperwork goes in the hands of like 4 or 5 people before they give you whatever visa that you came there for, right? So it goes into multiple different hands. But what happened was when I got there, the first person that saw my paperwork and saw my grades after 6 months, it was like, okay, damn, he got all A's. I'm gonna just stamp him a 1-year visa. But when it got to the second officer said, hell no, right? Yeah, you got good grades, but hell no, you don't get a 1-year visa. She scratched that shit off and gave me a 6-month visa. So whatever. First year, you got to tap in at Chengwatana twice. Your second year, once a year. Okay. So you got your paperwork, you got your classes. Depending on the university that you go to, they try to have an international program. Like if you go to an international university, they're trying to attract Thai students who know a little bit of English to join the international program. And a lot of them don't want to, right? A lot of them don't want to. I mean, they do, they don't want to, but if they do go to the international campus or if they do take the international program with the foreign students, they want to they want the school and the professors to be lax on them, to be lenient, right? So what they do is the Thai students, you go into class, you listening to the professor, you're doing your work, and the assignments seem pretty easy. The paperwork, all the essays and the paperwork you have to write up, that you have to type up, it's fairly easy and simple. The projects that you have to do are fairly simple, but the Thai students, you're gonna see that. Damn, maybe I shouldn't say it. You're gonna see that either they're gonna say it's too difficult for them, or they're going to say it's too difficult for them as an excuse not to really put in 100% effort into the assignment, right? So either or, either or. So when I would go to school, the foreign students, if they say, hey, write a 30-page report on the ecosystem of Lumpini Park, I remember we had to do that. We needed pictures, we had to do a lot, and this was an individual assignment, right? I remember the instructions to these assignments. The professors, they'll print out the instructions and hand it out to every student, right? So the day we hand in our assignment, right, we're handing in our report that we typed up. I remember there was a Thai student. What he did was he made copies of the instructions that the professor handed out weeks ago. He just kept making copies, put a cover page on the front, stapled it, put his name, ID number, and everything, handed it in, and was like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'm a Thai. Just give me a grade for it. Pass me." Right? And I'm gonna go more in depth on where that mindset comes from tomorrow when I talk about. Well, actually, tomorrow I might talk about working in Thailand. But part 9, I might talk about. Well, actually, no. Tomorrow I am going to talk about working in Thailand as a teacher, and I'm gonna go more in depth on that mindset as to why he did that. All right, there's a reason why he did that. So I'm like, man, if he did that, how many other students are doing this also? How many other students are just making copies of the instruction paperwork and then putting a cover page on it, handing it in, and expecting to get a good grade on it? If he did that like it was nothing, if he was that comfortable doing it, he's done that before. All right. Some of these international universities, these campuses, these students, they have rich parents. All right. I'm probably jumping the gun. Right. So some of these parents, they have rich parents that spoil them. So when you have a student like that who would make copies of the instruction, stamp a cover page on it and hand it in and expect to get a high grade for it, and they don't, right? They get a 0 for it. They'll complain to their parents, and then their parents will threaten the school, right? And they have a lot of influence, these parents. So I'm gonna tell you some of the students I went to school with. I went to school with certain students who were major influencers, right? I remember there was this one girl who sat next to me in school. She had a twin sister, and one of my classmates, he was Japanese, and he told me, "Hey, that girl right there, like she's famous." I'm like, "For real?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "On what, Instagram or whatever?" He's like, "Yeah, she has like over 1 million followers on Instagram." I'm like, "For real?" I'm like, "What does she do?" He was like, "She's an actor, an actress." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I didn't know. I didn't look at them as that. I don't know anything about Thai entertainment in Thailand, like who's who, anything. But I found out over the course of time going to the school that I went to, there was another guy, his dad was like he owned the equivalent to like Office Max, Office Depot in America. I forget what it's called. Let me Office Supply Store in Bangkok. Office Mate, that's what it was called. The guy that I went to school with in at my university that sat next to me, his dad owned Office Mate. So that's like the equivalence of like Office Depot, Office Max in America. But his family owned Office Mate. They had a chain of Office Mates around the country of Thailand, and his dad owned it. So they had big money. Um, I remember there was another project that we did where there was like you need to record yourself at home talking about this, that, and the third. I'm like, okay. And the day we had to, because everything is about show in Thailand. I'm gonna explain that in a different video. The day they show the program, or no, excuse me, the day they show the assignments that everybody did on screen, recording themselves talking about a certain subject matter, and you saw their houses, I was like, damn, who are these people? Some of them had spiral staircases, spiral glass staircases in their houses. Um, you know, their houses. I don't know where those houses were placed in Bangkok. I don't know what neighborhood they were in, but you know, they were insane. There was another guy, Top Ramen Noodle in America that's very popular. You can imagine how rich that family is, right? Well, the equivalent to that in Thailand, like the number one noodle, like microwave noodle company in Thailand was called Mama Noodles. All right. And there was a guy in my class, his family owned Mama Noodles. And they were rich. His assignment that he did where he recorded himself talking, his house was insane also. So I'm like, damn. There was another guy, his family owned these they own like these fried crickets that was that they would sell at 7-Eleven in different grocery stores. So He was in my class also, and he made a like his house was crazy. So, I, more than likely at an international campus, there's going to be some rich students that attend with you in class while you're there. Now, everybody's not rich. There's some foreign exchange students that, you know, they came from all over Asia. A couple people from America, a couple people from Russia, Europe, you name it, that attended that school also. But these uniforms, certain days you're gonna have to wear them. So if you show up to orientation, they want you to wear these uniforms. Okay. Um, if they want you to be a model on their website or on their brochure, they're gonna have you wear these uniforms. Okay. Now they never asked me to be a model on the front of any brochure or website for the campus I was on. You could imagine who they asked to be on the front of the brochure and the website. It wasn't me, okay? And it wasn't anybody who looked like these two right here, right? They asked people that pretty much look like this and over here to model for the brochure and the website. Okay. Um, what else? Orientation. That was cool. I met a girl that I dated. She was Korean at orientation. So we had some Korean exchange students. There were a few Korean students that were there. They were cool. There were a lot of Chinese students. They were very, very close. So they just stuck by each other. Not say that they were just fond of each other like that. They just tolerated each other. They just kind of they just kind of like just stood in their pack. They found their tribe and they stood with their tribe. Okay, everybody in between, right? Um, if you have Malaysians, Filipinos, Vietnamese, they're if they find somebody else that is from their country, they're going to hang with them and everybody else. For the most part, most Thais did not hang or sit next to foreigners. They did not speak or try to mingle with foreigners. They were just like, nah, y'all over here, over there, we over there. They didn't even want to tell us the days that campus was closed. Right. So they have their own group chat. There was a group chat for them, there was a group chat for foreigners, and then they had their own little private group chats for different classes also. But the professor was supposed to be in the group chats with the students. Now, in the professors would try to get the Thai students to interact with the foreign students. So sometimes in their own group chat, they would say, hey, campus is closed on this day. So why don't you guys send the word out, send the message to your foreign students or to your foreign classmates that campus is closed tomorrow so they don't show up and confused as to why nobody is here on campus, right? So there were days I would go on campus and multiple foreign students would go on campus and nobody was on campus. They never closed the gate on campus, so you could just walk up there, but you didn't see anybody. So if you show up for an 8:30 class, nobody's there. Nobody, the professor's not showing up to the class. The students aren't showing up. The door is locked. There's no other classrooms that are open, right? You type something like a message in the group chat, then all of a sudden, a Thai student or a professor is saying, there's no class today. Yeah, I tried to get the Thai students to tell you guys that there's no class today. Campus is closed. Was it a holiday? Nah, it wasn't like a major holiday. It's just one of those days where it was closed for whatever reason, right? And I'm like, well, it's not the student's job to tell us that campus was closed today. Or sometimes campus wasn't closed. It was just that the class had been canceled that day. So the campus was open. There were people there. The canteen was open. The office was open, but nobody in class is showing up. And it's like it's not the student's job to tell us that class was canceled today. It's your job to tell us. And why are you putting this in the hands of them? They're not gonna, they're not gonna speak to us. If you tell them to pass the message along, they're not gonna tell us. So why would you do that? That happens several times, right? Well, I told the Thai students to tell you guys that class is canceled today. They need to talk to you guys. Hey man, forget all of that. Did you send it in an email? Right? You guys gave us emails. You guys gave us campus emails and everything. Why didn't you send an email? Why didn't you send a message? Why is everything word of mouth? All right. So you run into issues like that where you're in class and it's not like you never speak to anybody, Ty, but they sit with their own. They don't get in groups with you. They don't do assignments with you. They don't tell you when class is canceled. Apparently, the professor's not going to tell the foreign students that class is canceled when it's kind of like you should make that announcement to everybody. All right. So a lot of people had difficulties doing that, just being in class with other ties. Now all ties aren't like that, but the majority they just kept to themselves. What else? Whenever there was an assignment or groups or get in groups and do this assignment, get in groups to present this project to the classroom, they did not want to get with foreigners to do assignments with foreigners. And then when the professor would kind of make people get into groups with each other, so everybody, so she might go around the classroom, he or she might go around the class and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody who's a 1, go over here. Everybody who's a 2, go over here. Go. Everybody who's a 3, go over here, and so on and so forth. Like it's high school or middle school. And so when you're in a group, now you're in a group and it's mixed with random people. Now you have ties in your group, right? So I've done several projects with ties, and I have to be honest. You see, these are the things they're not going to talk to you guys about on TikTok, because on TikTok they're going to sugarcoat everything. They're going to tie a little pretty bow on everything, and everything is going to be positive. I'm giving you the positive and the negatives. Whenever you do off-campus meetups, right, for a project, ties, they always showed up late, like 20, 30 minutes late. And I started to notice that like the professor would show up late to class. The Everybody, as a matter of fact, on my campus, my hours was never on the hour or at the half hour. It was always like 8:50. Class starts at 8:50. Class starts at 10:15. Class starts at 9:50, right? The reason why a class starts at 8:50 is because they know for the most part, the professor and the students might show up late. So it's really a 9 o'clock class, but they say it's 8:50 so that they show up at 9. So you're there at 8:50 waiting, and they show up at 9:03. Class starts at 9:03. You're there at 10:15, but the professor and the students, they don't show up until 10:30. So now it's like it's 10:15, but it's really a 10:30 class. Does that make sense? So even when we would set up little meetings off campus, they would always show up late, like a half hour late. And it's like, okay. So when we show up, we would talk about what we're going to do. We would tell, we would assign different assignments for each person and say who's going to do what. And me, I take my time, but I like to get I like to get things done early, right? So if it's due in 4 weeks, I might have my portion done within 2.5 weeks, and then you check in with everybody and say, "Hey, how are things coming along?" You talk periodically to see how are things coming along, and most of the other ties in the group will say, "I haven't started yet. I haven't started yet. I haven't started yet. Been so busy. I haven't started yet." And eventually they don't do it until the night before, right? And these are easy assignments. It's not like assignments that you do in high school that it's like, okay, it's a lot of work, but you kind of have to pace yourself, right? You could do a little bit every other day until the last month. Now, here you're ready by, week 4 on the day of presentation. Most of the time, man, they would do it on the last day, and they would their portion of the project, they would present chicken shit, right? Or you end up doing people's portion for them so that you don't get a bad grade. And then they would try to give a full grade. Like, okay, this grade is for all of you guys. And it's like, hell no, right? I did my portion. You know, I'm being the annoying asshole telling them, like, hey, do something, do a little bit every day. Why haven't you done anything yet? Right. So when they hand out numbers to everybody to get in random groups, I never was an only foreigner in the group, but it was like, if it's 5 of us, it's probably one other foreigner and 3 ties or 4 ties. And so the first year, I would only get in groups with other foreigners, or I would do assignments by myself, right? If they gave you the option to do it by yourself. I remember one time there was this girl, she was half white, half Thai, but I think she grew up somewhere in Europe. And actually, no, I don't think so. I think she went to international school. And she didn't even want Thais to know that she was Thai. She didn't even want Thais to know that she spoke Thai, right? A lot of people who grew up in Thailand that were not Thai or they were mixed, they didn't want other Thais knowing that they spoke Thai for whatever reason. So what she would do was, like, when there was an assignment. I remember there was one assignment when we're supposed to all get into a group, and she was like, "Nah, I'm doing it by myself." She was like, "I'm not working with Thais. If you're gonna put me in a group with Thais, I'm not working with Thais." Even though she was half Thai, and she presented the presentation by herself. She was cool. I remember her. She was all right. She was cool, right? But for the most part, foreigners wanted to get in groups with other foreigners to do an assignment because, you know, we understood, like, quality, the quality of our work, the quality of our presentation. This is what we need to present. We need to present quality in order to get a good grade. But here's the thing about ties, right? So while the foreigners get in a group and hand quality presentation of quality work, right? Ties, they would get in groups with their friends and do things half-assed at the last minute, right? So when they would present a project, it just looked like it was thrown together the night before. So the professor, it, some professors would not give ties a decent grade. And then what they would do is they would go to their parents, complain, and their parents have influence, they're rich. Then the parents will go to campus because, some of these rich parents with their successful businesses, they're probably funding the university. They probably donate to the university on top of just giving them tuition, paying for their kids' tuition. Um, they had enough influence to not only change the grades for their child, and the kid's excuse was English isn't my first language. Man, nobody told you to sign up for international campus, the international course, right? Nobody told you, because in Korea, you can't enroll in a Korean university unless your Korean TOPIK level, TOPIK level, is at a level 3, right? So you're going to do some classes in English and some classes in Korean. And if you're an exchange student, more than likely you're going to get all the English classes that are available. But I I I remember that, right? So their excuse was, well, I don't speak English. English isn't my first language, as their excuse. And so then they would change the grade, give them a better grade, and then from then on out, whenever you put in good quality work, no matter how good your work was or your presentation or your project was, right? They would not give you an A, especially if you presented it in front of the class. They wouldn't give you an A. They were like, yeah, okay. Like, in order to show out in front of the class, because they were getting so much pressure from the professor, since the professors, they were getting so much pressure from the dean, from the staff, from the administrators, because they're getting pressure from the parents. What they would do is they would heavily criticize your work in front of the class. And it would sound ridiculous because it's kind of like there's really no flaws in our work, right? We did the assignment the way you asked. And but they would try to find fault in the things that you do so that when somebody presents half-ass work that's tied, they get praise and then they get an A while you get a B, or they get an A and you get a C, right? And they threw their assignment together the night before because they've been partying for the last month. They've been partying for the last month, getting high, getting drunk, and then, oh, I got an assignment tomorrow. Let me throw some shit together tonight, and I'm gonna present it tomorrow. And even if it's gonna be half-assed or shitty, if they don't give me the grade, a passing grade that makes me feel good, I'm gonna tell my dad, I'm gonna tell my mom, they're gonna call the campus, they're gonna put pressure on them, then they're gonna change the grade anyway. And then my excuse is, well, of course the foreigners are gonna put out good work. They speak English. And that's not the case, right? That is not the case. Why is your PowerPoint presentation only has 4 slides, right? On a topic of the ecosystem of Lumpini Park, and you have to touch on different subject matters and present that to the class, and you only have like 4 or 5 slides, right? You have 30 minutes to present, 45 minutes to present. You see what I'm saying? Your presentation is only 5, 7 minutes. You have nothing to say. You don't have a report. You don't have anything. You're supposed to write out a report, present a presentation, present it to the class. I would see this all the time, right? I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I'm just telling you what I've seen when I was in school. And basically, I went to school in Thailand so that I could, uh, experience Thailand from a different angle. All right. I could experience 4 years of Thailand as a student, but it's like not as a worker. Some people they go there to work. They want to experience Thailand, live there, and work. I didn't work for the first like 4 or 5 years when I was there. I just went to school just to maintain my status, but I got good grades and I passed. Right. So that's pretty much why I went to school in Thailand. But let me tell you, when I was in class, if you had to work with somebody, if they put you in a group to work with somebody that was Thai, chances are they gave a less than a half-ass effort and they did everything at the last second. It was very frustrating. It got to the point where they stopped giving one grade for everybody that was in the group. And they said, okay, who did what? And we'll split the grades. And it's kind of like, what's the point of that? Because if you find out that the half-ass sections of the report or the project was done by Todd, you're still going to pass them and give them a good grade because of how much pressure you're getting from the parents. And this is what I've been talking about on this channel. Like in Thailand, look, man, they pass kids along. That's what they do. The education system over in Thailand is a joke. All right. It's really just to show up and network. That's it. Show up and become friends with everybody so that you have a potential client, a potential customer for whatever it is that you're trying to promote and sell later on. All right. Meet as many people as you can, add them on Facebook. And then when you have a business, now everybody that you've ever known since elementary school, middle school, high school, now university, you selling some snacks. That's, and now all of them are your potential clients, which is smart, but they act like you can't do two things at once. Well, we don't want to put too much pressure on them because, a lot of them, in the economy, they're very poor. And then some, I don't want to go there, but some people have had to use their daughters to get money and then bring money back to the family. I'll just leave it at that. Right. So regardless, it's like, and you would think at an international university that if they got that much money, they probably went to private school or international campus, right? So you should know and understand hard work, right? Being held accountable, being able to do what you're told, to do a task, to do it properly, to show up on time, to dress properly, to present the task that was given to you to prepare you for the world. Nah, it seemed like whatever school they went to, they just passed them along also. Another thing, some classes, they had like 80 or 90 students in there. And most of the Thais, they would sit in the back and they would talk loud as hell. They would talk loud. They would be laughing. And the foreigners would look back and be like, what the hell? Right? This is why some of the professors, they had to speak with a microphone. They would have to speak with a microphone and in Thai, tell them to behave themselves and calm down. Right? Some of those Thais in the back, they would run in and out of the classroom. just constantly, just run in and out, in and out, in and out. 3 people get up, run out, right? Then they will run back in, laughing, then grab something and then run back out. Then they would run back in, and then 2 other girls will run out, come back in. 3 other people will run out, come back in, all while the students are in the back laughing, showing stuff showing stuff to each other on their phones. Volume is up loud, talking loud. Most of the professors would have to would like yell and scream and go off on them in Thai. And then to the foreign students, like, hey, to all the foreign students, I apologize. I apologize for their behavior. This isn't how things should be, right? Every class, I had Thai students doing that until the professor said something and yelled and screamed at them. Then they stopped. They didn't do it anymore. You're talking about people that was like 20, 21 years old doing this as if they're in elementary school, middle school. All right. And like I said, the way the education system is, it's like it's people have arrested development syndrome in Thailand. Like you have a lot of overgrown adolescents. These are 20-year-olds doing this. So when they graduate and they go to some of these companies, they're still doing stuff like that. Right? Your immigration officer, they're taking it as if it's a joke. Right? Making you do weird stuff at the office. I remember one guy, he didn't want to give me my stamp. And he was like the head officer at this at the non-term body office, the immigration office. I had on some eyeglasses. He told me, take your glasses off. I want to look into your eyes. I'm like, what? He did not want to give me my stamp until I took my glasses off. Right? I wish that would happen in America because had that had that happened in America, you know, you can report somebody like that in America. Who are you going to report him to in Thailand? That's why, like, man, I'm not trying to go in, but I mean, from the education system to different industries, it's like everything is kind of a joke over there. Um, I will say this: the canteen, the ladies who cooked food at the canteen, the food was good. It was very good. School food was good and cheap. Um, what else? What else? What else? That's about it, man. You know, the points that I'm touching on, the process of getting your visa. They're gonna give you paperwork. They're gonna ask you to to pay the semester in full before you show up, right? So it can get your visa process going. You're not gonna get your visa at the airport. You're gonna get it at Chengwatana Immigration. If you know you're going to a university in Bangkok, it's only going to be 6 months at a time for the first year, and then 1 year visas after that. Sometimes you're going to have to take a test when your midterm comes around. You're going to have to take your midterms in this uniform that you see on screen right here. I remember one time they had some foreigners. They had, I don't know where they got these people from, but they had some foreigners in, and obviously they work with the campus, but they have foreigners like kind of uh um manning the test rooms handing out the test, because you'll be in a classroom with like 3 or 4 different classes, and everybody's just taking a test. Everybody has a different test. Your class will be in one section, right? And it's like A B A B A B. None of the tests are the same. None of the paperwork is the same. And but you might sit next to somebody from a totally different uh, program than you, right? So that nobody cheats. You sit in random. They put you in assigned seats that you're not looking on anybody's paper, and there's no cheating, right? I remember one time I walked in this room, and it was this lady, American, white lady that was American. And so I pull out my phone to turn it off to put it in a bag, and she starts kind of going off, calling me out. What are you doing with your phone now? You know you can't have that. I'm like, ma'am, can you calm down? I'm turning off my phone. Who are you talking to? Don't tell me to calm down. Like I said, I'll say it again. Calm down. I'm turning off my phone so I can put it in the bag. That's what we're supposed to do, right? I'm like, ma'am, this isn't America. All right. You're in Thailand. Relax. She started huffing and puffing. Then the guy that was in the class had to calm her down because there was another guy there. It's just, you know, bringing that bullshit over from America to Thailand. All right. It's trying to make a show in front of everybody that's in class, trying to show out. All right. So once you're done with the test, you flip it over, or you bring it up to the front, go in the bag, get your phone, and then you leave. Right. But that's how you take your midterms. You take it in a separate class, and there's like at least 2 professors that are watching you the whole time, making sure you don't cheat. And you got to show up in your uniform. Um, Other than that, like, there's other little details I don't want to go into. I just want to breeze over it, right? But at your university that you go to, use that to me personally, if I could do it all over again, I would have went to a school in China or Taiwan, and I would have got my degree in the Chinese language. I would have got my degree in Chinese. So I could have learned Chinese. I could be bilingual. Um, if I could do it all over again, I kind of regret just going to Thailand to go down the degree path that I went, but it doesn't matter. Like, I'm doing well for myself right now. So you can use that degree in different countries. You could use that degree in Japan, Taiwan. I think you could use it in China, but you can't use it in Korea. All right. So a Thai degree, you can't use it in Korea. Korea, they only accept degrees from American institutions, right? So if you think you're gonna use your Thai degree to go over to to Korea and teach, to be a teacher, nah, they're not gonna accept it. Or to get a job, they're not gonna accept it. All right. Even if you do have an American passport, they're like, no. But um this degree will allow you to get a job, which is I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Obviously, the degree is good for you to get a job within Thailand if you want to stay. Your last year there, you should be looking for jobs, talking to people, so that they don't cancel your visa on the spot and you have to go. They give you time to transfer your student visa into a non-B work permit visa. All right. But I never had to go to Laos to do anything over there as far as my visa process. my visa process was in Bangkok the entire time. The hell is this? Who's this? Oh, okay. My bad. What else do I want to talk about? The good was, I mean, I met some cool people. I met people from different walks of life. I got along more with the foreigners than the Thai students. Some of the Thai students were cool. You know, most of them didn't really speak to foreigners. Most of them didn't want to sit next to foreigners. Most of them didn't want to work on projects for foreigners. They just kept their distance for the most part. While, and when I say foreign, I'm talking about not just Americans and Canadians and Europeans and Australians and New Zealanders, and I'm talking about like other people from, uh, that were Colombian, Vietnamese, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, right? We would speak to them, right? We knew each other. We said hello to each other. We would all mingle with each other, right? People from Spain. Um, I remember there was one girl who was in my orientation that I spoke to here and there, and I tried to exchange line messenger IDs with her, and I guess she tried to make it seem like, hold on, okay, okay, my bad, that was important. So I guess she tried to, um, I asked to exchange IDs from her. I wasn't trying to hit on her and anything. I had a girlfriend, right? But the way she tried to curve me was she didn't know how to do it, right? I'm like, there's a bunch of people, and I'm seeing her pull out her phone, and she has like a bunch of messages, bunch of missed messages. So you do know how to add people. I just thought we was cool. Like I'm not trying to holler at you. So I would say out of all the foreigners that I probably had a little riff with, there was a couple Spaniards. It was really the girls. There was a couple people from Spain, and I was just like, oh, okay. It was acting kind of funny. Um, there's a couple people from China that were very cool, and then some of them was just acting funny, right? Um, like I said in one of the videos I did, Find Your Tribe, you know, when you get on these campuses, you're gonna see usually everybody who's from certain countries or whatever, they're gonna stick with each other. America's kind of Americans sometimes are kind of distant, all right? But Chinese, they stick with each other whether they like each other or not. And so I've said this before. If you get too close to somebody from the group, especially if it's a Chinese group, a Vietnamese group, or a Korean group, and they think like you're a guy that's getting a little bit too close to a woman, somebody might pull one of the guys might pull them to the side and say, stay away, stay the hell away from him or whatever. We don't want to see you with him. If you're gonna be hanging out with him and mingling with him, then X yourself out of our group. Right? Like just you'll be in exile. It was like that. And so there was a few people from the Chinese group that were cool. Some of them was acting real funny. Some of the professors are gonna act funny towards you. There was some cool professors. There was some foreigner professors. Some of the foreigner professors were okay. Some of them were weird, stressed out. And um yeah, some of them were just weird and you know, wasn't really a pleasant to go in their class. Hold on. Why are they still sending messages over Christmas? Yes. Oh, okay, my bad. Hold on. We do need to uh my bad, my bad. That was an important message, but where was I? Some people you're not gonna get along with. Some of the professors you're not gonna get along with. Like I said, they're gonna put you down to uplift their own. And they do this strategically so that they don't have issues with the parents and funding isn't taken away from them. Donations don't stop, right? So sometimes you might have a professor. I remember one professor. It was a guy. He was a Thai male, and he would kind of politely put our efforts down. I remember one time we had to make like an advertisement in one class. We had to do an advertisement, and one of the guys in our group, I think he was a Chinese Thai. He was Chinese, but I think he grew up in an international. He went to international school in high school, but he was very good at computers, and he knew how to do graphic design and everything, CGI, computer graphic animations and stuff like that. So our commercial looked crazy. There were bullets flying, helicopters crashing, bombs was going off, buildings exploding, right? And we present this to the class thinking, okay, man, we got an A. We got the best ones because we got this guy with us. And so this other group presented this other group presented a commercial that was that they recorded on their phone, and it was very half-ass, sloppily put together, wasn't really edited properly or whatever. Cool. If you want to give them a grade because they're Thai and you don't want to hear no issues with the parents, go ahead and give them a grade, right? Give them their A for effort, right? The professor gets up on in the front and says, "Yeah, the group, our group, uh, yours was okay. Yeah, it was yours was okay. It was kind of it could have been better. But this group over here, oh man, y'all was wonderful. Y'all won. Y'all won. I would have to give it to y'all. Y'all won the commercial television advertisement project." We was like, "What the hell?" I knew it. I knew what he was doing, but you didn't have to do it like that. You didn't have to do us like that, right? You didn't even have to say anything. Just be like, "Hey, grades. I sent grades out, so you should be getting your grades this evening. Um, check your portal on your grades." You could have just said, "Check your grade," or come up to the front to check your grade. You didn't have to make an announcement talking about who did what or who had the best commercial. Yeah, your commercial, the professional looking one that you guys shot on a Canon camera, on a mirrorless Sony camera, right? With a whole bunch of graphics and CGI and stuff like that. Yeah, that's shitty. But this one over here that looked like it was recorded on the iPhone 1, No, that they had the best commercial. So you're gonna get that when you go to school. You're gonna do assignments, and it's clearly gonna show who puts more of an effort in each assignment that presents to the front of the class. And you know, now here's the thing. Here's the thing. You can't you can give whatever grade you want and say that shit on projects that people present to the front of the class to be performative. But when it comes to test day, midterms, finals, you can't fake those numbers. So what happened was the parents put so much pressure, not only on our campus but other schools too, to where they were trying to make the passing grade a 30. The national average, the national passing grade amongst university students in Thailand, it's like a 30, right? So they put less than a half-ass effort. All they got to do is put in 30% and they pass and graduate. Right? So, and that's going to frustrate you. But here's the thing: you don't go to Thailand to you don't go to Thailand to get education so that you can, put it in a frame and hang it on your wall when you come back to America. You pretty much go for the experiment, not sure, experiment and experience, for the visa, to okay, look, I'm guaranteed 4 years in this country. If this is a place where I want to relocate to, move to, cool. And that's the best thing for content creators. Content creators right now, they're in Thailand and are probably on a tourist visa. And I've seen a few content creators from TikTok get kicked out because they thought, okay, I could just fly in and fly back out. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. After a while, like you only get maybe 6 to 9 months to fly in and out until they say enough is enough, you got to go. They've been doing this since 2018. It's nothing new. I don't know why people now are saying, well, they're cracking down now. It's been this way. It's been this way for 7, 8 years now. This is nothing new. Right? But you don't go there to get educated so that you can take this degree, go back to your home country, and move up in a corporate sector. No, they're not going to give a shit about the degree you get from Thailand. You get a degree because you decided to say, hey, I want to stay here long term. And this gives you time to find yourself. This gives you time to build a business. This gives you time to learn a language. This gives you time to make content and to build up your brand, right? This gives you time to network. This gives you time to join American Chambers of Commerce if you can. And when you graduate, now you can decide exactly what it is that you want to do, right? You don't have to put in as much effort into studying and assignments as you would in America, like at a top tier university in America. You have plenty of time. Like these assignments are easy as hell in Thailand at these universities. All you got to do is when you show up, think about what do you want to do with your life, right? Okay, I want to be a content creator. You have 4 years to build up your content, right? I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a streamer. You got 4 years to build up your brand, to build yourself up on Twitch, to build yourself up on YouTube, to build yourself up on TikTok, right? So after 4 years of constantly putting in hard work on these platforms, you should have somewhat of an audience that can support you and your dreams, right? And you can stay in Thailand or you can move someplace else. But Thailand isn't one of those places where after you build up your brand that you just You don't build up your brand and okay, now I'm gonna just stay here as a tourist forever. Because, like I said, they could cancel your visa. So you build up your brand and save your money to where you can afford like an elite visa. Does that make sense? And I already broke that down in part one, part two, an elite visa. So minimum you need like 15 or 18 grand, right? If you can build up yourself on social media in Thailand while going to school, right? And here's another thing, you can't work. You cannot work in Thailand. You cannot teach English and work and get a job while you're going to school in Thailand. If you do, you will get arrested. I knew I had a classmate, he was Korean. He was teaching Korean at a Korean language center. They they arrested him and his dad had to bail him out. It cost them like 10 grand. Cost them 10 grand to bail him out of jail. But they still allowed him to stay in Thailand. They didn't kick him out and ban him from Thailand. They just said, "You cannot teach. We're going to arrest you. In order to make everything go away, you got to pay 10 grand or your family has to pay 10 grand." And he didn't teach anymore, right? And the amount of money he was making teaching Korean, he didn't make anywhere near that amount. All right, so it's not worth it. So when you get a student visa in Thailand, if you're interested, just know you cannot work in Thailand. You cannot teach English. Now, you can be a content creator, right? You can be a content creator, but you cannot work a job without a visa. And you can't have two visas at once. You can't have a work visa and a student visa at once in Thailand. So you got to think about that. All right. Um what else? What else? Um sometimes people get slick at the mouth every once in a while when you're in class, and guess what? Um, when you check somebody or you raise a fit about it, nobody's gonna side with you. All right. Um, there's a few times I had to report certain professors to the dean. I know I had to report like three of them. You know, most of it was about. Uh, I remember. I remember one. Two of them was about assignments. There was this one lady. She was real like the class was. What is that? What is that? Publishing class. The class was what is that? The what do you call that you put at the end of a paper? Was it references? Your references, right? It was like a reference class, and you have to cite your references, cite your sources professionally. There's a certain format that you have to write it in, a certain font and format you got to write your references at the end, not bibliography, but you have to write your references and cite your sources at the end of a paper professionally in a certain font and format. Right? I had to take that class. So she would give us something to research, we would research it, and then we would have to she might have to say, okay, for this topic, you need to cite 10 different sources and write all the references at the end in the format that I taught you, right? So we did it in baby steps. We did it one step at a time, right? Okay. So in the beginning of the class, the first week, this is how you're going to do things to introduce you into the class, to break you into the class. So I'm not sure, but um it was to break you into the class and you know day by day, week by week, I'm building you up to where now you know how to cite all your sources professionally on paper the right way, right? But it was one step at a time. So she would say, okay, write it like this. So I'm allowing you guys to do that. Write it like this. Your assignment, you're going to write it like this, yada, yada, yada. We would do it. And she would give us failing grades. And it's kind of like, how did we fail? She was like, oh, because you're not on my level yet. You're not on my level yet. I'm like, didn't we not write it out and type it out the way that you asked us to do it? Yeah, you did, right? But you're not on my level yet. You don't know what you're doing yet. You don't know how to write an entire source the way you're supposed to and cite it on a paper the way you're supposed to. I'm like, no shit. That's why we're in class. This is the first week. She kept giving us failing grade after failing grade, right? Or barely passing. It was like, all right. So it's kind of like if I'm teaching you basketball, you see what I'm saying? I know you don't know anything about basketball. You're not coordinated to play basketball. You've never played it. I'm just teaching you the fundamentals in the beginning, right? I got to teach you what the court is, what a hoop is, the height, the length of the court, the width of the court, the rules. Now we're going to get into the physical part. So what you're going to do is I want you to hold the ball, but I want you to pivot on one foot, and I'm going to grade you. All right. Because I already taught you about traveling. You know what I'm saying? So when you receive the ball, right, or if you already took your 2 steps and you can't take any more steps, I could teach you how to pivot. So if I'm teaching you how to pivot, right, and okay, that's a good job. You know how to pivot. Pivot to your left. Now spin, pivot again. Just keep on spinning on that one foot. Just pivot. Now I'm going to try to put pressure on you and defend you and try to get the ball from you, but you need to pivot on that foot so that I don't have access to the ball. I'm not able to reach that ball from you. You're pivoting, and you're doing exactly what I'm telling you to do. Bam. I'm gonna give you 100. What if I say, all right, you did exactly what I told you to do, but you're not Allen Iverson yet. You're not ready for the league yet. So I'm gonna give you an F. It's like that's what she did. And then she was very sassy and rude. And I remember I went off on her in class one day in front of everybody. And I left. And then I went to the dean on her. And, so then she stopped doing that. And it wasn't like what the Ties were doing. It wasn't like what the Ties were doing saying, oh, we don't speak English, so you're supposed to give us a grade after I gave in a half-ass effort. No, I gave it a 110% effort. I did whatever it is that you asked me to do, the class did, and you still gave us an F because it's like, oh, you're not at my level yet. Yeah, dunk on LeBron if you want to pet. Yeah, that's how she was. It's just like we're taking it 1 week at a time, and in the first week you learn little by little, and we learn how to perfect this little bit that you're teaching us now, but you're failing us because we're not at your level yet. So you're gonna have some professors like that, man. And it's like, so that's what you're gonna deal with, right? You're going to class, Ties will sit with themselves, and nobody's gonna sit next to you, right? The only people that might sit next to you are foreigners. All right. Especially if you're a brother, they're gonna say you scary. Oh, he's scary. I don't want to talk to him. It's like, okay, you a grown ass man talking about somebody looking scary. You don't want to talk to them. All right. Mind you, this is university. We're not talking about elementary school. Right. So you still doing that thing that you did in elementary school to get teachers fired. You still doing it in university. So you don't want to sit next to nobody. Oh, okay, whatever. All right. Um, uh, um, you get into a group. Most people, foreigners, are going to get into a group with each other, but then the professor going to say, "Hey, y'all need to mingle with each other." So I'm gonna mix it up. You get in a group with Thais. Just know, if there's an assignment due 2 weeks or a month, right? Let's say they give us today is December 15th, right? They give us an assignment on today saying it's due January 15th. Let me tell you, the Thais in your group, they're going to do their portion of the assignment on January 14th at 11:58 p.m. That's when they're going to start doing their portion every single time. And then the professor is going to say, "Man, what the hell is this?" You're going to say, "Hey, man, see, this is why I don't even want to be in a group with nobody. This is why I only get into a group with other foreigners because they don't show up on time and they don't want to do the work." All right. Um, you're gonna have that. I've been in groups where two people are fighting. I remember this one dude, he was trying to fight a girl. This Asian dude was trying to fight a girl, another Asian girl in my group. I had to break that up. I had to stop that. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It's a female. Like, what are you doing? All right. Um, and don't let it be a place where don't let it be an assignment where it's like y'all have to go to a location to speak with people and then report back and put it in a PowerPoint presentation and present it. Where you have to go somewhere, they're gonna do it at the last minute. They're gonna do it at the last minute. They don't know how to they don't know how to pass on instructions. I remember one time there was this huge project we had to do, and instead of the woman giving us instructions on a piece of paper, she designated leaders, and then everybody gets in group with these leaders, and then she's just going to pass on the instructions. Man, the instructions were so convoluted that the day we had to present, the professor was very, very disappointed, and she was like, "This is what I asked you guys to do." I'm like, "You didn't ask us to do that. You told them to tell us what you wanted us to do through these leaders. Why didn't you say this on paper? Why didn't you write this on a paper so we can follow it? So if a quote unquote leader isn't leading correctly, man, we can go through this rubric right here, with class instructions on this project you want to do." I remember the stuff we did that was passed on to the group leader, and then everybody in our group was working on our portion, going off what this student was saying. It was the opposite of what she wanted. I'm like, so they don't know how to pass on information. It's like you get into a class, they're running in and out. The Thai students are running in and out of the classroom. They're loud as hell in the back of the room, yelling, screaming, cackling, slapping each other, wrestling with each other in the back of the classroom. I mean, and they're 20, 21 years old doing this. 80 people in the class. The foreign students are looking in the back like, "Man, what the hell is going on back there?" Then a Thai professor has to say something, right? I remember there was this one Malaysian professor I had. This dude, like, they was doing that in his class, and he screamed on this one guy. Oh man, he screamed on this one guy. Um, just going in and out, in and out, in and out of the classroom. He was like, "What are you doing? Sit down. Sit down. Stop running in and out. He was yelling at him like it was his dad, right? And then, like I said, it's with the with the whole uniform thing at a university. They try to they try to treat it as if it's like they try to treat them as if it's elementary school, middle school. You know how when you go to school in middle school or some middle schools, like I never had to wear uniforms growing up. I never went to one school where they wear a uniform until and these uniforms that you see at university, it's only on certain days you got to wear them. It's not all the time. But I remember I was at a um what was I gonna say? Well, these uniforms, if you had to wear a uniform in middle school, elementary school, whatever, it's kind of like you're a kid, you're a child. So they treat you like one. You act like a child, they treat you like a child, they talk to you like one, you know, and whatever you accept it because the teacher is much older than you, they're an adult, you're just a kid. And kids are going to be kids. Some kids are going to listen. Some kids are going to be defiant. That's just how it goes, right? But at at the university I went to in Thailand, I noticed some of the professors they was kind of talking to some of the students like they were children. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it's that arrested development, overgrown adolescent mindset that a lot of people have, and then it's like as they go to university, as they go to college, it's like it's still high school treatment, middle school treatment. And I'm like, why is that? I'm paying to go here. I'm paying my tuition to go here. Don't ask me why I didn't show up to class. I remember I um I had to get surgery on my leg, right? So I went to Korea and I mentioned it. I sent an email to all my professors, which actually no, I didn't. I take that back. I didn't. I'm like, I'm gonna be gone for I'm gonna miss a couple of days of classes, but I didn't have the same class every single day. So really, I'm just gonna miss one class in these classes right here. So I show up like two class periods later, and one of the professors like, "Man, where were you?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But he wasn't saying it like, "Man, where were you? We missed you." No, he was just like, "Where where were you? Where did you go?" I was like, "Man, I was minding my business. What do you mean? Where was I last class? What do you mean? Where was I with last class? Where were you? Where did you go? Tell me where were you?" I'm like, I don't have to tell you shit. You don't pay my tuition here. I don't need to tell you nothing. And so I said this in front of the class, so he backed off. You see what I'm saying? But had he asked somebody Thai that, they would have told him, they would have wide and stuff like that. So and you might think, well, it's out of respect, but this guy, he wasn't Thai. This professor, he was Malaysian. But still, like sometimes they don't know when to separate like high school and university. University, all right, if you teaching a class and I'm being disruptive, it's kind of like, man, get out. You know what I'm saying? Get out, get all the way out. If this is what you want to do with your time after you done paid to be here, then get out. Don't disrupt everybody else. But if I don't show up to class because it's a medical emergency, I don't need to give you an excuse on that. I don't need to tell you nothing. This is a syllabus, right? So the syllabus in the beginning of each semester is going to tell you what you're going to do every class period so that it doesn't matter if you miss a class, you know what the class was about, what the assignment was. So it's like, why are you asking me like you're a parent or something, talking about where were you? I said I was minding my business in my skin. That's where I was. I'm like, I'm not telling you where was I, it doesn't matter. I pay my tuition here. You don't pay it. So if I want to pay my tuition and not show up at all, I could do that. Don't ask me where was I. Right? I'm not running in and out of the classroom like them, yelling and screaming and making noise like them. I'm sitting here quietly. I just wasn't here last class. And he didn't say nothing. Right? But it's like, so you're gonna get some professors like that where they're gonna try to treat you like a kid because they treat the Thai students like a kid. It's that um I don't know what's the term in their entire language is. You know how it is. It's kind of like in China where it's like somebody older than you, you just got to do, and it's that whole respect the elders thing where no matter how ridiculous they talk to you or how ridiculous the request is, it's kind of like you got to do it because they're older than you. That's not how it is in America. In America, if somebody older asks you to do something stupid and you could feel, no matter how young you are, okay, this sounds stupid, dumb, and this sounds like they're trying to take advantage of me or something. You run and tell your parents, and then your parents come check them like, hey, what did you ask my son to do? What did you ask my daughter to do? Right? But you know, th- I would say it's kind of like in the middle. Like there's still some people that respect the elders. I mean, it's the right thing to do, especially if they mean well. But over in Asia, they really take that to heart sometimes, and it's like you're treating university as if it's middle school. No, you're supposed to be on here on campus. You don't have a doctor's note, a slip, or nothing like that. So I reported you tardy, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So you're gonna have that in class. What else? Um, they're gonna hire any goofy dean from the West. They're gonna hire anybody goofy, just to sit in that office. They'll hire anybody. It doesn't matter. And there's going to be a lot of information that people aren't going to tell you. You see what I'm saying? And it's purposely to kind of misinform you so that it's just to get you to go away. Like, I don't want to tell a foreigner nothing, right? So the proper way of planning your graduation and graduating, and you know what I'm saying? Properly, the paperwork procedure that you have to do in order to, because all right, no matter what visa you have, if you want to leave Thailand or if you want to cancel a visa, there's a, it's like a post prepping thing you have to do. You have to get all your paperwork in order, and this is and a third to present to the immigration office so that you know you can leave in Thailand, and then they can cancel your visa. If you don't cancel your visa the proper way, then it's going to be a problem if you try to come back into Thailand. But because if you try to come back into Thailand, they're going to be like, "Hey, you didn't cancel out your last visa. You're going to have to get that done, and it's going to cost you this much." So it's like, right? Um, what else? What else? What else? Um, my university was like right off Succumvit. It was off a train station off of Succumvit Road, off the main strip. So I lived in Hue Kwang when I first got there. Then I moved to Bang Na, and I stayed in Bang Na for like 2 years. I really, really like Bang Na. I like Hue Kwang even more. Bang Na is cheaper, but I had a peaceful experience when I was in Thailand. Now, things get kind of, you know, things get kind of weird when you start dealing with people. And there's some cool people, you know, there's some cool people. I don't, I'm trying to get the good and the bad. I don't want to make everything sound negative, right? I think going to university is a positive experience for content creators, right? But if you're trying to get that degree to do something with it back in America, no, no, all right. Use that degree to stay there for 4 years and figure out what it is that you want to do. Do you want to stay in Thailand? Do you want to leave? If I could do it all over again, I should have went to Taiwan or mainland China and got my degree in the Chinese language. That's what I should have done. If I would have done that, I would still be there to this day. I'd probably have some import export business, right? Um, or translation. I would have several. When you learn Chinese, there's several businesses you can have. You can open up. You could pretty much open up your own school, teach like, hey, I know Chinese and English. I'm fluent in Chinese and English. Okay, great. He can explain in Chinese why this is like this or it's said this way or the grammar is like this in English, right? In the English language. And he can explain it in Chinese to me. Then we can switch back to English. Boom. That's one business, right? Um, translating, right? Translating documents. Boom. That's another business. Writing people's thesis, spell checking, grammar checking people's thesis coming out of college uh, in China. That's another business, right? Coaching, especially for all you brothers out there, you could coach football, basketball in English and in Chinese. Boom. You could already do that in English, but it's just your value is much higher when you're bilingual. Your stock grows significantly when you are bilingual. And then you can start your own business. Look at all the products that are in China, right? Look at all the amazing products at these conventions that they show off in China. You can buy a bulk load of their products that you go to these conventions, you see what they have, you could buy it for yourself. You could slap your own brand, your own logo on there, sell it on uh Amazon, sell it on a website, import export. Right? There's several businesses. You can help people with their documents. You can help people prep to go to university in America. Man, and they pay you big money in China. Whereas like in Thailand, it's they're paying English teachers $1,000 a month to teach English at a school, at a high school, for 10 hours a day. That's crazy. That is insane. So, but anyways, I think I touched on all points. You'll make a lot of friends or meet a lot of cool people on campus in Thailand. You know, well, the smartest thing that I've seen people do going to campus is just build up their social media page. Then by the time they graduated, they this one guy, he was Russian, so he was speaking English to everybody, interview people, right, vlogging his experience in Thailand. But all the the translation for the closed caption, it was all Russian. And he ended up building his YouTube channel to like 500,000 subscribers. I remember after we graduated, I checked up on him like a few years later. Dude, he had like a huge house in the hills somewhere. He had a drop top Benz, all this in Thailand. I was like, damn, he living a life, right? Women. I don't know what happened to him. I went to his channel and it's not there anymore. And then the last time I checked on it, he hadn't posted anything in years. So I wonder what happened to him, but he did things the right way. He built up his business, his online business, his social media platform, and got rich in Thailand. Now, I mean, there's other business ventures you can get into, but your purpose of going to school in university in Thailand is to build yourself up, whether it be in tech or import, export, some online business, whatever. I was doing a lot of sound engineering on my spare time when I was in Thailand, and I was building that up, and I was doing well for myself still. All right, so people bring me their vocals. I would clean up the vocals, mix and master the beat, mix and master the vocals. Bam. I would charge a premium for that. I was building that up when I was in Thailand. All right. But you don't go to school to try to use that and bring that back home. You understand? But anyways, I'm over them out. I don't want to repeat myself. I get into the habit of doing that. You guys take care. See you tomorrow. Peace.